Hello, this is Martin Willis, your host, and I am excited to bring on tonight on the premiere of season 4, Brandon Fugal from The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch History Channel. I'm lucky enough to do what I do and to be able to get the screener, so I was able to watch episode 1, which premieres tonight at 9:10 Central on History Channel. And again, I'm really excited to have Brandon Fugal on, and I'm going to play the trailer for the show coming up.
The closer that we are getting to the answers, the more covert military activity continues.
What is the military doing flying over Skinwalker Ranch?
Someone's taking an interest in what we're doing.
Somebody's up on the ridge.
Right there.
This is the largest scale experiment that we've ever done here so far.
Fire! There's something in the sky.
The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. New season Tuesday, April 18th at 10 on the History Channel.
I think I said the times when it started backwards, but you'll figure it out, right? Brandon, welcome to the show again.
Yeah, it's good to be with you, and thank you for following our journey. Tonight is the epic launch of our season 4, which is the documentary effort following our real life investigation out at Skinwalker Ranch.
That's right. And, not a lot of shows like this make it 4 seasons. And so that's how popular this is. People I know that are not interested in UFOs, or I didn't even know they were interested in any type of paranormal type of situations, love that show.
Well, we keep this grounded. I acquired Skinwalker Ranch back in 2016 as a skeptic. I never intended to reveal my identity as the owner. And, after years of persistence and over a year from the History Channel and their producers, I finally agreed to at least take a meeting under confidentiality and was ultimately convinced to open the gates and allow some of the finest documentary film professionals on the planet inside our investigation, which is year-round and has continued for now 7 years, documenting the reality of the phenomena at Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah, no regrets, I bet.
It's been an interesting learning experience. Quite a roller coaster, quite a departure from what I am involved in all day, every day, which is commercial real estate and various entrepreneurial pursuits. The investigation at Skinwalker Ranch is proven to be not only quite mysterious as far as what we've been able to document, but has really pulled together my team in a way that I would have never ever anticipated. It really is a historic moment to be able to present these things to the general public and allow them kind of a seat as we conduct, I think, some of the most aggressive research and scientific investigation relative to these frontier topics.
Well, I hope you haven't lost out on any deals concentrating on this. Any
No.
real estate deals.
No, I'm still
probably have
working.
other people covering when you're gone, that type of situation.
Oh yeah, well, still working typically 16 to 18 hour days focused on selling and leasing office buildings, office parks, and take time only when necessary to be briefed on the activities out at this 512 acre piece of property that has become the center of more UFO sightings, bizarre cattle mutilations in the past, and other strange phenomena.
Now, when the adjoining the abutters, are any of the abutters that of the property there, trying to also capitalize in some type of, I'm not saying that that's what you're doing, but are they trying to capitalize on what you're doing on the Skinwalker Ranch?
Sure. We've seen some of that. We've seen some people, some efforts to try to exploit what we are doing, but we stay focused on our effort and try not to be distracted by anything on the periphery or that which would try try to sensationalize it. I mean, what we're doing, as sensational as it is, it's really grounded in real events and real research that my team has been conducting for years. And so we continue to be laser focused in spite of some of the distractions that pop up once in a while.
Now, George Knapp's book, Hunt for the Skinwalker, the pseudonym Gorman was given for Terry Sherman. And I'm wondering, this is a question from a listener of the show. He's wondered if you have ever spoken with Terry.
No, we've had communications through intermediaries with Gwen Sherman, with Terry's wife, but the Sherman family has asked to be left alone, that people respect their privacy, and I've done so. I've tried to respect their privacy and appreciate that they had enough courage, decades ago, to come forward with the reality of what they were experiencing that ultimately led to their sale of the property to Robert Bigelow, Bigelow Aerospace.
Right. And how difficult would you say it is these days to keep people away from the gate? I mean,
it's always a challenge, even with our surveillance platforms. I mean, we have nearly 50 cameras, and we have a whole gated entrance, guard shack, armed security. There is a lot of excitement and fascination, and I don't blame people for being intrigued, interested, but there is danger. We keep our security protocols in place, and frankly do not allow the public inside or any public tours of any type, simply because there have been events that have sent people to the hospital with strange illnesses and injuries. And we are also conducting a very sensitive scientific investigation. Introducing anything outside into that environment always poses a risk of disrupting something that may be ongoing with an experiment or a specific research activity. So I think it's important for people to realize this is an active living laboratory. This property has been locked down for 27 years and secure, has been the subject of investigation and focus during that period of time. And we've obviously escalated the research, the level of sophistication, and I've invested in the scientific platforms that you see on the series that we are deploying in service to documenting the phenomena and what we're experiencing.
What was that? I was trying to remember watching the screen or watching the first episode. Is it 1.6 gigahertz or something? The frequency
there's a signal that seems to attend many of the events that occur, and that's part of what we continue to investigate and explore. What is very interesting about the events at Skinwalker Ranch is a lot of times they're correlating events. You have electromagnetic anomalies coupled with multiple eyewitness testimony, videographic, photographic evidence, coupled with at times acute medical episodes, or at least people feeling something or experiencing something physically. When you have all of those things happening simultaneously and being documented, it presents a very compelling data set relative to the phenomena and these topics, and really the nature of what we are dealing with at Skinwalker Ranch.
Now, you were involved quite a bit in episode 1. Do you plan on, or you probably already filmed, or I don't know if it's in the can already or you're filming, but do you plan on, or are you in a lot of this season?
Yeah, periodically as needed. I'll come out and be briefed on some of the experiments, even participate as appropriate and as I'm available in some of the research activities and the experiments. But I really do leave it to the team and the third-party credentialed experts that we bring on site to really advance the investigation and in essence return and report. I mean, I'm the steward, the owner of the property, but I'm only as good as my team, and I'm very fortunate to be surrounded by a multidisciplinary group of people that are really helping to advance this. I mean, several of the individuals involved, which were handpicked, selected by myself, I've had relationships with for decades. I've worked with for a long time. Even my principal investigator and chief scientist, Eric Bard, I've worked with for going on 13 years relative to various endeavors. I mean, this is, of course, the most unusual. Most of his background was involved with plasma physics and optical physics, but he's been a remarkable resource and frankly an incredible leader when it comes to establishing the right tone and the right type of scientific platforms and protocols that we have in place and have had in place for a long time, long before any docuseries effort, which of course went public in 2020. We were taking data and developing a very compelling data set in order to better understand the nature of what we were dealing with.
Now, are you responsible for that helicopter?
Yeah.
You are. Oh my goodness.
The Black Hawk. So the Black Hawk helicopter that obviously has been shown in the previews, absolutely not. That ended up appearing, and you'll see this as the series progresses. But we've been under some really concerning surveillance. I mean, we've had a covert military presence that has ended up just without any warning showing up in tandem with the experimental activities that we are conducting out there. My helicopter, which is an Airbus H-130, I think it's the most advanced civilian helicopter in the state, is of course deployed in service to some of the experimental activity and the research that we are conducting, which I don't take lightly. I mean, we're putting not only a very expensive piece of equipment at risk, but more importantly, we're putting my brother, who is a full-time pilot with over 9,000 hours, who is fully rated jet and helicopter pilot.
Wow.
In a position of I think trying to navigate his way through some of these experiments that can be quite intense. I
know we can't give away too much, but there is some scenes in episode 1 in the helicopter that are pretty amazing. You know, my son watched the screener with me and my producer the other night, and my son is basically a skeptic. He thinks a little more about UFOs since I've showed him some really compelling cases. But still, he's more or less a skeptic, and he's sitting there going, wow, whoa, like that. You know, when we watched episode 1, there was a lot of things and he thought it was a great show.
Well, but let him know I was a skeptic too. When I acquired the ranch, as a healthy skeptic, but someone who had never seen a UFO or a ghost or an orb or anything like that, and I believed that there was a natural explanation for the phenomena, for the events reported. And I was very surprised to find in time that there was absolute validity to much of what was reported. And even though we are dealing with an inherited narrative, we are trying always to be led by the data, and we allow our research, our investigation to be led by the data, as opposed to just a bunch of spooky stories or anecdotal accounts. As much as those are part of the historical record and may be important, we're trying to be disciplined in the way we're going about this. But it is crazy. The ranch is something that I think catches everyone off guard. Anyone who's come out there for any extended period of time ends up experiencing something, whether it be completely unexplained equipment malfunctions, electromagnetic anomalies, or seeing literally UFO or UAP in the sky above the property. And these aren't satellites. That's not people getting out, night vision and mistaking something for this, Starlink. I mean, these are very real events that attend some of our research and experimental activities that are very difficult to account for or even explain.
A lot of times it seems like some of the hot spots for, say, UFOs, I'm talking mostly, but a lot of times there's like copper deposits and, certain different things geographically in areas. And what would you, this may be a question for one of the scientists there, but is there anything unique about the property as far as metals deposits or anything like that you're aware of?
Good question. One of the things that I obtained early on, the very beginning when I acquired the property, was a soil study relative to the property. It was very comprehensive. Nothing unusual noted in that soil study. As things have happened and as we have documented our efforts, we've brought environmental consultants. I mean, Qualtech, Semper Environmental, Guideline Geo. I mean, a number of very credentialed third-party expert firms to test the environment, to test the soil, and test the ranch to see if there is a natural explanation. Is there some type of radioactive material stored on the property, or something that you can assign cause to? And the disturbing thing is that in every case, they found that whatever is creating this is transient. It's transient in nature. And with one exception, and that is as we have delved into the mesa and explored the earth there to see if there is anything unusual, we've had surprising results. Anyone who has been following our journey knows that we pulled out of the mesa. I mean, 400 feet into the depths of this mesa plateau, we pulled out metallic objects. I mean, that according to experts is not naturally occurring as far as its composition. That has been very, very intriguing. And the events that have occurred in tandem with that digging activity, I mean, we're talking about just crazy equipment malfunctions and failures. And even one of our team ended up having a cardiac arrest, had an incident, a health incident that occurred simultaneous with some of our most aggressive digging activity and had to be run to the emergency room. There's something going on. There is something I think that lies beneath this property as well as above the property that defies any conventional explanation, and we're trying to get to the bottom of it.
Right. Going back to, you mentioned Bigelow earlier, whom you bought the ranch from. So he was involved. Basically, it was sort of a government situation. The Pentagon was involved. Am I getting this right, with funding at least for research there?
Yeah, the ranch. The ranch was at the center of a Pentagon-funded black budget program between 2008 and I believe 2013, when that concluded and was terminated. Mr. Bigelow has remained fairly tight-lipped relative to what was documented that is either confidential or classified. When I acquired the ranch, I acquired it with no data, with nothing turned over, and really started with a clean slate. And frankly, I'm thankful for that. I believe that starting, with a clean baseline and a new team that was skeptical. I mean, my principal investigator, my chief scientist, came on the property as an absolute skeptic, a critic. He believed that there was a natural explanation and was determined to prove that there was some type of any luminous phenomena was naturally caused, and that maybe the geology itself somehow was involved with creating some of the events and even hallucinations that that people were claiming could be involved. And what we found is that that really isn't the case. I would love to have some type of mundane natural explanation, but what we've witnessed is anything but.
Right. Don't you think it's rather odd that the government had an involvement at one time and now they're surveilling? Do you think they're just curious what's ongoing?
Well, these are unmarked helicopters that are not transponding. So
not transponding.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Wow.
and you've seen this in the past in some cases, but I don't want to. I've got to be very careful because all will be revealed. But I'm telling you, it is very mysterious and suspicious, and it's concerning. The timing associated with the surveillance activity and the fact that it corresponds with some of the most dramatic events that have occurred. It's quite sobering. I mean, and I think at times my team has felt like they've been placed in harm's way.
Huh. Wow. Here's a question from the chat room from Stephen. Why would Bigelow sell a magic ranch?
Well, at the time I was under the assumption that he was too busy, had grown very, very much involved with his aerospace endeavors, really positioning to be the real estate developer of space. He bought the space habitats program from NASA, the inflatables program. And I think he was working very aggressively to deploy that and work with NASA and other enterprises like SpaceX to advance those endeavors. But I think as time has gone by, it has been revealed that Mr. Bigelow had some negative experiences, or at least attributed some of the negative experiences that he had to his ownership of the ranch. And I think that was a motivation for ultimately selling it to me, was to not only pass the stewardship, but to get rid of the hot potato, to rid himself of some of the negative aspects that he encountered associated with his ownership.
And are you feeling any of those?
No.
That's good.
No, I've been fortunate. I have not had poltergeist phenomena, the hitchhiker effect, or anything like that follow me home personally. I've been very fortunate, but I have not experienced that. I've witnessed just extraordinary things on the property, but I have not had anything follow me home.
Have you ever been actually scared?
Yes. There have been a number of times where I was overcome with absolute terror on the property. And these were not just at night, during nighttime events. Some of the most compelling incidents have occurred in broad daylight and at the most unexpected times. So yes, honestly, I've experienced fear, terror, unlike anything else in my life.
Wow.
Prior to the ranch, while I've been out there.
Well, on a dare, I would not sleep overnight under the stars there. There's no way I would. Yeah, I mean, I'd be absolutely petrified too. But
I don't know. I have to also say I went 6 months. The first 6 months of my ownership, I didn't experience anything unusual or negative, and I was going out there regularly for briefings and to check on what was happening with the ranch, and I found it to be a very peaceful, strikingly beautiful landscape and place. But it was only after a 6 month period that I ended up having my own undeniable experience with witnesses at my side, and that was game changing for me. So I tell people all the time. I even told the History Channel when we commenced really filming the docuseries, that they could very well come out and film for 3 to 4 months and not get anything unusual. This is totally unpredictable.
And historically, it's had that situation happen.
Yeah, it really
for
has.
long stretches. And what, if you don't mind, what was that experience?
It was a UFO sighting in broad daylight, October 14th of 2016 at 4:00 in the afternoon. I was hosting a dignitary that had 2 security people with him to watch after him, and both of those individuals professed their skepticism, as I did early in the day, and we found ourselves in the late afternoon witnessing all simultaneously what can only be described as a UFO, a craft, 40 to 50 foot long, silver grayish disc-like object that was hovering right above the mesa in front of us and maneuvered with split-second speed. And within about 20 seconds after darting about and just leaving us shocked, it was gone. The whole event lasted about 20 seconds and then it was over. But it changed me from a healthy skeptic to not just a believer, but an experiencer.
Yeah.
And from that point forward, I was determined to invest the resources into really understanding the nature of what is happening on this mysterious piece of property, this 512 acres that is out in the middle of nowhere, out in the middle of the Uinta Basin, surrounded by tribal property.
If you were to, I mean, it's only a speculative question, but why do you think this place is the way it is?
We don't know. That's one thing that we're trying to get to the bottom of, is really why this place, and why is Skinwalker Ranch experiencing this activity? Is it the geology? I mean, it is right in the dead center of the Uinta Basin, which is a big bowl, which is truly a basin-like formation out there. That may have something to do with it, and that's something that we discuss in our research and even on the series. But we're not quite sure. It may have something to do with what is buried in the mesa. We believe that there may be something unusual on the property that is a contributing factor, that is part of the catalyst, if you will. I mean, we've had scientists that have speculated that there are portals on the property.
Right.
We've had, GPS malfunctions, all sorts of, as I've mentioned, electromagnetic anomalies that defy any explanation to date. And even, we have compasses that just without warning will start spinning, and these are analog devices that malfunction, as well as Samsung, Galaxy, and iPhone devices that simultaneously end up malfunctioning and wigging out, all captured on camera. And there is something definitely going on that is very, very unusual.
And there's other places, but I would say the most talked about for many years, well, that I've been looking into this topic, has been the Skinwalker Ranch. There are some people that say, well, that's a Skinwalker Ranch of, Georgia, or they'll have areas where all these odd, things seem to happen, which is really,
Sure.
quite amazing and hard to figure. The Shermans, before they bought that ranch, are you aware? I don't remember reading in George Knapp's book of the previous owners, reporting any type of situation. I wonder if anyone tried to look them up and interview them.
Sure. Well, the Myers, Kenneth and Edith Myers, who owned the ranch for decades before selling it, before it was really their brother-in-law that ended up selling the property ultimately after they died, after they'd passed to the Shermans. But the Myers, Kenneth Myers, had incidents occur that were documented, at least, I mean, and reported on really by, we had Deputy Sheriff Chris Porrett, who has appeared on the docuseries and for the first time went public with the fact that back in the 80s, he was responding to incidents, and in his capacity as deputy sheriff, incidents of everything from bizarre cattle mutilations that were occurring on the property to UFO activity and other strangeness that was occurring with respect to the cattle and the environment. And we've had other independent, credible witnesses step forward with their own testimony over the course of the last few years that have gone on record with the fact that this didn't start with the Shermans or Bigelow. This is something that has been going on for a very long time, for decades, if not millennia, before the present ownership, or at least the recent decades. So it's something that has been occurring for some time, and we're trying to get to the bottom of it.
Now, as soon as you mentioned the name Myers, now I'm thinking that it might have been in George Knapp's book because I remember that name. Now, or either that or we talked about it before. I'm not really sure. But here's a question from the chat. What would be your most incredible piece of data evidence for your team has collected at the ranch, in your opinion?
Great question, Brett. There's a whole constellation of evidence and activities that have occurred that constitute, I think, some of the best evidence. We had one of the most compelling incidents, and we have the data from that incident, was the experiment involving the astronomers. We had a group of astronomers that came out to the ranch with their equipment, and their equipment, which was a closed system, ended up being manipulated in tandem with that experimental activity, and they all witnessed a UFO. They ended up witnessing right above the triangle, and where they were trying to really point their instruments with a lot of difficulty because of the malfunctions, a UFO. And so again, you have electromagnetic anomalies, equipment malfunction, UFOs appearing that do not match up with anything as far as the satellites or any air traffic that is being monitored in the basin. And then you have witnesses along with the video evidence of those events, and you also have things showing up with our spectrum analyzers as well. All of that combined data, which with each incident involves terabytes of data, constitutes some of the best evidence that we've actually collected out on the property. We're about ready to, I think, unveil some of the most compelling evidence in the weeks ahead, and that's why we've been so excited to unveil season 4. And this isn't meant to be a tease. I'm an excited steward and participant. What we are going to be presenting to the public is I think some of the most compelling documentary evidence of the reality of the phenomena, and the fact that we may not be alone in the universe, or at least that our reality is much more complex than it might seem.
Right. And do you think that since the last few years that the UFO topic is less taboo, do you think that's actually helping with your work in some way?
Sure. When you have decorated fighter pilots, radar technicians, law enforcement, all bravely now coming forward with their own firsthand accounts, I think it is opening the doors, and at least making these topics much more credible to approach and discuss. I think there was a giggle factor associated with these topics that had been programmed into the public consciousness for decades. a very active disinformation campaign. I think we still see that to a degree with some of our media and some of the so-called skeptics out there. But it doesn't change the fact that it's real. It is happening. We have objects of unknown origin that are violating our airspace indiscriminately, that are operating using at least some type of advanced physics or propulsion. And I think we are witnessing an incredible time of discovery. I mean, this is frontier science at its best. Mm-hmm. And I'm thankful that we're a part of hopefully cracking the door open to really bringing the reality of some of these topics and incidents forward.
Speaking of cracking the door open, Dr. Travis Taylor, he reveals on episode 1, this public knowledge, that he's now been chosen as chief scientist for the Pentagon's UAP task force. That was pretty exciting for you to reveal right off the bat.
Well, yeah, I mean, and it was shocking. I mean, to learn that the consulting physicist that had been brought in had been acting for several years as the chief scientist for the Pentagon's UAP task force, and that he'd been doing so, really bound by national security oaths and not able to tell us. It was aggravating to members of my team. There were several of my team that were angry with Dr. Taylor, to be candid. They felt betrayed. They felt like he should have been more forthcoming, that he should have revealed that to us. But Dr. Taylor was very quick to point out that he was bound by certain confidentiality agreements in his role, and was not in a position to breach that. And well,
of course, I mean,
I have to respect that. I mean,
yeah.
When it comes down to it, I have to respect that he was willing to keep those confidences, and that he really did take his role seriously. This wasn't just some LARP. This wasn't some live action role playing baloney. Dr. Taylor was taking not only that responsibility seriously, but he was continuing to act in his role as a physicist and as a part of our team, our expanded team. So it was something we had to work through as a team, to be honest with you. It was not met with a lot of enthusiasm. I will tell you, there was a lot of hesitation, and there were some hard feelings. I mean, Dragon in particular was pissed off.
Well, he likes being pissed off, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, he felt like that was something that should have been disclosed. But there have been all sorts of revelations, and I think that's what you're going to see with this season 4 that starts airing tonight. Is you're going to see revelations. The 14 episodes that we'll be unveiling in the weeks ahead are revelatory, and I think it's a part of the journey. It's a learning process as well. There is a lot that we are learning. I mean, there are dead ends. There are experiments and activities that don't bear fruit, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's all part of the learning process, and it's part of science discovery.
Well, it's like a fishing expedition. You don't know what's going to happen, and something that's non-repeatable, you try to make it repeatable, but like, again, we were talking about 1.6 gigahertz, or I believe that's what it was. That was something that you used to try to agitate, or whatever you were trying to do to try to make something occur, which I don't want to give too much away, but it's very interesting.
Yeah, well, one thing that really, I think, sets our effort apart is we are really not led by a narrative. We are not led by an inherited narrative. We are led by the data. We are a data-driven team, and those findings are continuing to drive the next steps that we are taking. And you'll see that, I think, manifest in the docuseries. You're going to see that in our interaction. That's one thing we've tried to be. I've tried to be painfully transparent to a fault, to the point where I'm taken advantage of. My own transparency and honesty and genuine nature ends up being taken advantage of by people at times that have ulterior motives. And it is what it is. But I am trying to endeavor to allow the public a peek into what is happening, and I'm someone who considers himself a steward. I believe that these things should be shared with the public. I'm not profiting personally off of this. I haven't taken one penny personally. I mean, this is truly a labor of love, and it's something that drives me. I mean, I'm trying to get the answers more than anyone and share those answers and those findings with everyone as part of this collaborative effort. And I hope people are hopefully as excited as I am to see these topics explored for the first time in this way.
Yeah. I think it's going to be your best season the way it kicked off. It just seems like it will be. Here's a question from Gan Dolph. And Brandon, thank you for your fresh approach to this ranch project. Have you been able to get any answers from military confirming that it's their Black Hawk helicopters you have observed?
I'm probably going to say no comment, other than we're a bit frustrated. But I'll that's a very, very good question, and I wish I had the answers. That's part of the mystery.
Yeah, I think we were talking about this earlier, more or less. Mary Grace is asking, could the unusual metals materials have been left from an asteroid crash from long ago? That's a great question.
Could, although the experts that have analyzed the material have said that it's not naturally occurring. That the way this material is fused together appears to be manufactured. And to explain why a manufactured material of this composition would be buried over 400 feet down into the depths of the mesa, it is really intriguing. It's something that we are trying to get the answers to, and you'll see a lot of our efforts unfold. We're excited to have everyone along for the journey.
Now, I didn't catch all of the series last year, but I saw that you had some people, they were out interviewing people around the ranch. Is that what was going on? They were briefly on. Is that something new this year?
What was that again?
There was a woman and a man that were going to interview people in your briefing at the beginning.
Oh, well, we have my ranch caretakers, Candace Lindy and Tom Lewis, are actively engaged, as well as Jim Morse, who has been kind of my community liaison since day one, since the day I acquired this property. Candace Lindy, I think is important to note, is a published anthropologist. She's actually published a book on anthropology that has been used as a textbook. She's been all over the world with archaeological digs and research studies, and she's helped lead the effort to pull together the history of the area and some of the historical record, as well as engaging with the community. I mean, Jim Morse has been such an incredible liaison and advocate with the community. He has a special love for the Native American people and has established, I think, some really special relationships with tribal elders, the spiritual leaders, and our neighbors. We want to be good neighbors. We want to always be respectful of the cultural heritage and the history of the area, and I think the special history that attends the culture that we're fortunate to be involved with.
Now, you're talking about the uh, Native American culture in that area, and that's basically what a skinwalker. The description of a skinwalker is a Native American term.
Sure. It's from Native American legend. The skinwalker is a shape-shifting demonic entity, essentially a Native American witch or warlock that, in essence, sells its soul in exchange for the ability to take on the skin of various animal forms and have immortality. It for lack of a better description, I would say it's like a Native American. It's the Native American version of a werewolf to a degree, but it's something that they take very seriously. And the ridge, the mesa plateau that runs the expanse of the property from east and west, we were told was cursed to be in the path of the skinwalker many generations ago, and is part of the local lore and really the historical narrative that attends this property. It's an intriguing aspect of the history of this property that I think we have barely scratched the surface of. I mean, it's difficult to address some of those topics. As I'd mentioned, we try not to be led by a narrative, by an inherited narrative. We're being led by the data and being data driven and trying to use scientific instrumentation to measure, to document that which we're interacting with. It's a little bit more elusive when you're dealing with some of the other phenomena that many people consider to be more of a spiritual nature.
Do you know who was the first to name that Skinwalker Ranch?
Yeah, it was Bigelow's team. So it was the nickname given by Bigelow's team back in the 90s after serving on the property, living on the property. They started referring to it as Skinwalker Ranch as opposed to the Utah Ranch or the Sherman Ranch, and it stuck. And they felt like the history and the Native American influence and the curse that attended this property was an element that they felt was important and was part of the overall investigation at the time.
I'm sure that's a trademark name, but it's a great name actually.
Yeah, it's an interesting part of the history. Well, bring on more questions. Anyone?
Yeah, here's coming right now. John Burbage wants to know, any thoughts on the 1700s Spanish missionary seeing the fiery orange sphere in the ranch?
I've heard of these accounts. I'm trying to verify to see if there's more credible documentation that would back that up. Again, there's a lot of history that has been passed down generations on this property. I mean, even the old homesteaders, their family histories speak of strange phenomena that occurred on this property. And I think going back to, the Spanish missionaries and some of the early exploration in the basin, there have been reports for a very long time. I'm trying to get to the bottom of it.
Right. Now, I know back when I've just lost their name. The Gormans, but it wasn't the Gormans.
The Shermans?
The Shermans were there. They had seen the strange wolf that I remember, the oversized wolf that came and I believe attacked the dog or something. I can't remember exactly, but they shot it and then they saw like the footprints disappeared and there was no blood.
There are all sorts of accounts.
Crazy stuff. Now, I want to know, has anyone, since you've owned the ranch, seen any strange animals there?
I'd mentioned my community liaison, Jim Morse, who is, former military police, very sober individual. Jim with a witness at his side, had an experience where he saw, a figure with red glowing eyes. This creature that was standing up on two legs that stared at him from a distance and then proceeded to disappear either up or into the mesa. And I've known Jim since I was 18 years old. I met Jim back in 1991. He was developing an office park called the Towers at Southtown. He's been involved with a lot of endeavors. He's raised millions of dollars for Native American charities over decades with American Indian Services. He's a remarkable individual, and I've never seen him exaggerate. I've never seen him make anything up like this. I mean, he was shaken. He was visibly shaken when coming back and telling this, giving his account and telling everyone what he and the individual that was with him witnessed. And so I have to, I mean, that's part of the record, that's a data point. Have I seen anything like that? No. Most of our team, they have yet to experience or witness anything of that nature. It doesn't mean that it isn't real. It just means that I don't think I have enough. I don't think I have enough data to really make a definitive statement. Like I can make definitive statements relative to UFOs that have been witnessed because I've seen it for myself with my own eyes, with multiple witnesses occurring simultaneous with other phenomena. But some of these other topics are a bit more elusive and frankly controversial.
Right.
For good reason.
Yeah. It's funny. The red eye thing has been mentioned a number of times. Mothman, and people have seen these tall figures with red eyes, which is bizarre. Here's a question from someone here. Is there anything about the ranch that you cannot speak about? Now, I don't know if that will just lead people to speculate.
Not really. To other than that which we are going to reveal over the next few months in the docuseries effort, there isn't anything that I'm not willing to talk about or can't talk about. I mean, this is an entirely privately funded endeavor. I'm not under any national security oaths. I hold no security clearances. I'm not involved with any other entity relative to the ranch. I mean, this is my privately funded investigation that I happen to be making public. I'm allowing cameras and documentary professionals to come in and help build a record of what is really occurring on this property with my team and present it to the public. And I'm excited by that, and I don't intend to withhold anything. So I don't have a corner on the truth, and I certainly again consider myself a steward. I think it's my responsibility to bring these things forward as they manifest and as we parse the data and have what I believe to be events of merit that occur.
Here we go with another question here. Let's see. Do you think that anything may be publishable in a scientific journal at some point?
Yeah, I think at some point we'll publish. We're still gathering data. We're still repeating experiments. We're still trying to develop enough of a record and enough of a data set to actually present a meaningful research paper for peer review on a number of these topics and events and incidents that have occurred. And so it's something we intend to do in time. Is that my priority? No. I mean, this is my investigation. I'm doing this for me. I'm not trying to convince anyone. As much as I'm excited about it, and I'm excited to share the results, the findings. I hope this doesn't sound bad, but this is for me. I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. I'm trying to understand the nature of what is happening, and I happen to be open to allowing the public to have a front row seat and to accompany the team on this journey. So that's a long-winded answer, but yeah, that's my intention. Is that the driving goal? I mean, at the appropriate time, yes, but we're still in the middle of repeating experiments and gathering as much data and intelligence as we can.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you're doing a great job. It's been a really fun evening speaking to you tonight, and the show goes live in just about an hour, I believe. No, at 10 o'clock. Do I have that? Yes, about an hour right now. 9 Central Time. Coming right up, and I do have the graphic here. I'm just going to pop that up for a second.
Well, in parting, I just want to thank you, Martin, and I want to thank everyone else. Thank you for following our journey and for your sincere interest in these topics. I promise I'm not going to let you down. We want to get to the bottom of the truth, and we're going to present it as it unfolds. So again, I just wanted those to be kind of my closing comments, and just want to thank everyone, especially those people who are kind, that are sincere seekers. And guess what? It's okay to be skeptical, to be critical. I was there once as well, but I think we'll all hopefully benefit from what will unfold here and be discovered. So thank you so much, Martin.
All right. Thank you now, and take care.
Take care.
All right, everyone. So we'll be back next week with Dan Hare. And I want to thank you all for watching our show tonight. And remember, we'll see you next week, and keep your eyes to the sky.